Alright, what's up guys? And as you see on the screen, it is that time again for the tier list. And just to start off, I apologize if you hear me cough. I don't know, I've been coughing the past few days, so if you hear that, happens, nothing I can do. Don't have time to mute between them. But anyways, yeah, I've been saying I'm gonna put out a tier list for the past few days. I'm finally getting around to it. And I know it's kind of dumb to do it now because there's a patch tomorrow. However, if the patch changes stuff drastically tomorrow, it'll take about a week anyways. And then, I'll make another one if things are very different. However, it's a content patch, not a balance patch, so while I'm sure there will be some balance, overall, I doubt it'll be a ton. But with that being said, let's get right into the tier list. So, this is actually going to be a bit of a shakeup as opposed to how it used to be, because we have one giant issue in the game currently that's going to be very apparent. And normally we have, our S tier please nerf characters. We're looking at things like Cleric, Wizard, Barb's up there sometimes, Rogue even. However, the best character in the game right now is Warlock. This character is so beyond broken right now, it's not even funny. With the gear you're able to get, and I actually have Dark and Darker pulled up here. I guess you can see me too. Actually, oh, I'm probably the wrong character. I don't know. I actually have Dark and Darker pulled up here just to show you some of the things I mean, so I can go over this. But some of the gear you have access to, like the golden robe, the golden hood, golden cloak, like all of these things, like these three things right here, just on their own, these things make Warlock so good. Just being able to put this gear on, have insane base stats, have insane because it has 5 vig base, having a ton of HP, getting all the stats you want, and then we have purple gear, like rugged boots or reinforced gloves that give up to 5 vig on their own. You can get all these stats that you didn't previously have access to, and because of that, Warlock it has a much easier time getting all the stats they want, because Warlock, they need magic healing, they need move speed, they need HP, they need all of these stats. And before, while yes, eventually they could get them if your gear was absolutely insanely cracked out of the mind, perfect, legendary, unique bis, that wasn't realistic, and pretty much no one would ever hit that level of gear. So, it wasn't really good, and it wasn't really feasible to consider them that good. However, now it's very, relatively speaking, it's very easy to do that, and it's not very hard to do that. Or it doesn't take very long to do that, so it's very easy and not very hard. Obviously, it's the same thing. But it didn't take very long to do that. So Warlocks are out here being very, very geared, and even in not perfect gold gear, and just like purple gear, they're still able to perform incredibly well and just, do incredible things. As always, Phantomize is the best get out of jail free card in the game. There is nothing that compares to it. I mean, you hit a Curse of Pain on someone, you Phantomize. By the time your Phantomize is over, you're pretty much full HP from 10%. I mean, unless you get hit by like a fireball in Phantomize, which, I mean, is possible, but in that case, they'll probably just kill you anyways. But for the most part, that's not really happening. You usually just get to get away because a wizard usually isn't in a spot where they can fireball you, especially if you're closer to the front line, or, if you're not even fighting a wizard, because that's the only class that can even reliably damage you or anti-heal you. You know, you're incredibly fast. Your damage isn't super high. Like, that's the thing. Warlock damage, outside of, like, unless you get stuck on a Hydra, their, like, damage isn't that high. Curse of Pains, Dark Bolts, like, yeah, they do damage, but they don't do a crazy amount. However, the problem with Warlock is, like, I'm not going to kill you fast, but I will kill you, and you can't stop me. That's, like, the motto of this class, is, like, I don't have to like, a wizard will insta-kill you, but a wizard can die. Warlock's like, you can't kill me, but eventually I will kill you. And it is just such, like, an unfun thing to play against. There's very few counters to Warlock in the current meta. The only things that really beat Warlock are a Cutthroat Rogue, which pretty much no one's playing Cutthroat Rogue for some weird reason. I actually don't even understand it myself. Or a very, very geared Ranger. And that's only if the Ranger is using a recurve with, like, triple shots. Because if you're using a longbow, generally speaking, the Warlock is always going to be able to have time to heal. If the Warlock has time to put down a Hydra and heal off of it, then you can't kill them. That's just, like, the main thing. Something else that I've been playing recently that's actually very, very good at killing Warlock is Slayer Fighter. Slayer Fighter or Bard are both viable options. However, in a 3-man team setting, it's not as consistent because where the Warlock's going to play, you can't really get on top of them. And if you do, they pop Phantomize, and you have 2 other people you have to deal with, and you probably overextended to get to them anyways, and you kind of just die. So they're not super good at killing them. However, there is an argument to be made that they can do it. But other than that, Warlock is definitively the best character in the game, and it is not even remotely close. This character is just so incredibly broken. It's not even funny, and I hate playing against it, and I hate my life. And for all of you, you who are gonna comment and be like, "Oh, you're a fighter. Of course you hate playing against Warlock. Warlock's not broken." No. First of all, you're dumb. I'm not even playing Plague Fighter really. I'm playing Slayer, and Slayer is pretty much Barbarian when it comes to killing casters. It's fantastic against it. Warlock is just insanely broken, and it's ridiculous. This class should never die if you play correctly. Ever. You can check for stealth, you can get physicals off of you, you can just do everything. If you play Warlock correctly, this class does not die. Period. Alright, followed up, we have Cleric. Honestly, the thing is, I almost want to put Cleric here, but the problem with putting Cleric here is, like, it shows that it's on the same level as Warlock, and that's just not the case. So I'm putting it here. I think it's a bit better than S. Like, if I were to add, like, a new tier... Oh, what the hell? Oh, that's... Okay, that's weird. I don't know how that happened. If I were to add a new tier that was, like, this needs to be nerfed, but it's not super urgent, that's where this would go in between S and please nerf. Because 10-spell Cleric should have never come back. 10-spell Cleric is so strong, and it's so unnecessary. It has the exact same problem that I do with 10-spell Wizard, where it's like you get to pretty much bring every single thing you want without losing anything. Do you know that 2 spells Clerics don't run when they have 10 spell, like because they don't have to? It's Locust Swarm, which is completely unusable anyways, and Cleanse, which is only useful for bossing. Which I don't even think works right now. Like, and people are like, oh, you can cleanse Warlock spells. Yeah, and you have 5 cleanses and they have infinite spells. So no, not really. Doesn't really matter. But anyways, so you pretty much don't have to give up any spells. Like, I guess you don't have a skill like Judgment or Smite, but who cares? Because you have you can bring Holy Strike for free, which, you know, Holy Strike over Judgment, it's just better. And then for Smite, it's like, why do I need, unless you're playing a frontline Cleric, you don't need it because you have 5 more spells. You can Bind, you can Holy Strike, you can do it at Divine Strike, you can bless your teammates, you can do all these other things. So you don't need to be in the front line smiting people. You just have 100 different tools to keep people off of you. Like, somebody pushes you, yeah, why would I need to pull up my weapon and smite them? I can bind them and have my teammates deal with them, you know? And their heals are still insane. They still do very, very good things. Overall, just kind of ridiculous, kind of strong. And this is what, so I think these two right here, definitely the best 2 characters in the game. I don't know. I think Rogue is very strong, too. I think Rogue is, like, almost up here somewhere for me. It's pretty close. I don't think I'm going to put it on the level of Cleric, but I think Rogue is very strong as well. I think if I had to put Rogue somewhere, I think I would put Rogue as the 3rd best character in the game. I mean, the problem with this class is the level of tanky. It has this kind of the same issue Warlock does, is you can get incredibly tanky from the armor you wear just from having, like, really high base stats. You can be really fast. You can have really solid damage. You're still, you know, an invis character that can't really be dealt with by other characters unless they have an invis check, which is literally just Warlock. I mean, I guess Light Orb too, but Light Orb isn't consistent because you can move around that and it's not as big of a radius. But Rogue still does the same thing they always do. They invis, they pop out, they insta-kill you, they run away, they smoke pot, they hide, they double jump. All these really, really annoying things they still can do, and they're still very, very strong. So overall, Rogue is just a very dumb character right now. Rogue, and also the thing about Rogue is Rogue works in pretty much any team comp, which is weird because in the past that wasn't the case, and I don't know if it was because people just like weren't used to playing with Rogue or Rogue players just weren't as good. But in the past, Rogue was not a character that worked in any team comp. Now they are. It doesn't matter. Do you have a push team comp? Rogue's fine. Do you have an anti-push? Rogue's fine. Do you have some sort of like neutral in the middle team comp? Rogue's fine. Fighter, you can go Fighter Cleric, Rogue, perfectly works. Ranger Cleric, Rogue, perfectly works. Bard Wizard, Rogue, works fine. Like, all of these comps are perfectly viable. That honestly, I think that's a good and bad thing about the game right now, arguably, is that pretty much you can play any 3 combination of characters and it feels good. But I don't necessarily think that's because the characters work together. I think that's because so many characters can play on their own. For example, Warlock. Actually, let me fix the dimensions here. It actually doesn't look that. Can't really see everything. All right, there we go. Should be better. So the thing about Warlock is Warlock can pretty much play on their own entirely, like disregarding their entire team, and it's fine. Like, it doesn't matter. They don't lose anything from it. You don't lose anything, which is good. Warlock plays like a solo character in a team setting, and Rogue can do that exact same thing. Is you don't have to play around the Rogue. You can, and it does help them. However, most of the time your Rogue's looking for a flank. He's not playing with the team. He's very far away from it, and it's just so because of that, you could put them in any team and team setting, you know, and they work. Or is it a good team character? No, but it does work in the team. All right, moving on. Actually, this is actually kind of conflicting. I think a lot of these characters are good. I think Barb is probably the worst out of all these. I think Ranger's very good. So I'm honestly, I'm debating on what I want to put here. If I had to guess, I would say probably Bard. See, this is actually really difficult because I think everything after these three characters, I think Bard, Wizard, Fighter, Ranger are all incredibly close, and I could put these in here in pretty much any combination, and I would feel perfectly fine with this. I do not think any of these would be particularly wrong to put first. I think Fighter could go here, Bard could go here, Wizard, or even Ranger. I think all of these characters are very, very good. So I'm just gonna kind of throw them up here. I'm in a loose order. If I had to guess, I would say maybe something like this. I don't know. Fighter here. Oh, can I? Okay. I would like this doesn't feel bad to me. I think so. Okay, so the fighter. I'm gonna go over why I think fighter's here. This is very specific. So actually, let me do this first. I'll go over Bard after. So fighter is here if and only if you are running a high movement speed build. If you are running a low movement speed build, it is worse than Barbarian. And when I say high, I'm talking like 98, 99, 100% movement speed, fists out. You have to be very, very fast to be playing fighter. If you are not like at least that fast on fighter, this character is just, it is awful and you should not play it. You are just a worse barbarian. You will get kited by every single character in this game and you will die without doing anything. Unless they are dumb enough to run up and fight you in the face, which no one should be, unless it's maybe another fighter, your character is completely useless. However, if you are running, you know, for example, like 100 movement speed build or plus, or something I've been playing recently. So I want to talk about this. I'm talking about Plate Fighter right now, and I'm actually going to mention Slayer Fighter a little bit after this. Like I'll go to Plate and I'll go Slayer because obviously they're different characters. So if you're going Plate and you're up to that 99, 100% movement speed area or even higher, then this character is perfectly fine because it lets you you can chase down Rangers, Wizards, Bards, Warlocks to an extent, not crazy. But you can move around the fight the way you need to. You can get on the people you need to. You can fight the people you need to. You're not stuck in one spot getting permakited. You can actually do things. However, if you're a bit slower than that, like, you know, like only 90, 95%, most of the time you're going to get kited around and you're just going to die. It's literally just that simple. You're just way too slow to do anything. Even with sprint, I mean, at best with sprint, you can get to them after your sprint ends. They're just going to kite you again. If you get stuck before you get there and you can't get to them with your sprint, you literally will never get to them in the fight. Just kind of how it works. Kind of the unfortunate truth of fighter, but it is. Like I was saying, if you are running like, you know, one of those slower builds, like 90%, like your full plate or something, like, you know, golden plate, because you want to try that, your character is useless. You should never play it. If you are running a full plate build or a low mobility build, fighter will feel like the worst character in the game in everything. Solos, duos, trios, doesn't matter. You're gonna get kited by warlocks, kited by rangers, kited by wizards, hell, even kited by clerics, and you're gonna die. All right. Oh, excuse me. All right, now Slayer Fighter. I actually think Slayer Fighter is all the way up here. I think Slayer Fighter is insane right now. I think Slayer Fighter is so good. And keep in mind, you do have to have good gear for this. This is all of these are considering you have good gear. None of this is like default gear because that's vastly different. So, you know, that's not talking about it. They're talking about good gear. Not necessarily BIS, but at least very good gear. Purple plus, purple, you know, purple gold area. So Slayer Fighter, you know, pretty much what I can actually show you my builds right now for this just to, you know, help go over it a bit. Right here. Oh, pull up my dark and darker. All right, so this is like this right here is what I consider like a good build. I mean, obviously, you know, 175 HP, 101% move speed, I have 35% fizz damage bonus. A build like this is what I'm talking about when I mention, like, you know, I think Slayer Fighter is good. So, but if you do have that level of gear, you have very high mobility, your damage is insane, you're hitting for easily, you know, 140 headshots with a falchion. You're able to two-tap pretty much any character in the game that's not another tank. And you're able to move around fights very, very fast. You are a very big threat to warlocks, wizards, rangers. Rogues are a bit of a problem for you because they pop out. You're not super tanky. They can kill you. However, if you turn, you hit them once, twice, they're going to drop very easily. I've hit a rogue with 150 HP with a kit like this with an arming sword and did 80% of his health bar. So, like I said, you can do very, very good damage. Very good damage with these types of builds. And just overall, historically, it hasn't been super good in trios. However, you know, I mean, it's weird to say because damage is still very high right now. But even ignoring that, Slayers is still good. Like, even with all the damage running around, Slayer still has a very good spot. And I've been playing it, and I've been having a ton of success with it. You can face check Barbarians if you have high enough DPS. Bards, you insta-kill pretty much. Rangers, Wizards, you insta-kill. Warlocks are still a bit of a problem, yes, but Slayer's better at killing them than Plate ever will be. So I do recommend trying this, and I do think it's very, very good. But alright, back to what I was going over. Bard. Bard's still a good character. You still have really, really valuable team buffs. Accelerando, Allegro, Harmonic Shield, Rousing Rhythms, all these good stat buffs, movement speed buffs, damage, well, not damage buffs, prop buffs. All of these good things, very, very strong. You help your team. You know, having more movement speed, more stats, always valuable. Giving them more protections. If you have a fighter, cleric, barb, any of those, they love them and valuable. And then the bard itself is actually a very strong fighter. You know, rapier with rapier mastery, very, very strong, very good. Whenever you get high gear, you're pretty much turned into like a mini fighter. Like you can easily hit up to like 45, 50% PDR with your buckler out. You're still hitting for good damage, maybe 90, 100 headshots with a rapier out. You're a really good backline diver because of your movement speed buffs and how fast you are and how much damage you do. You are very, very threatening to wizards, very threatening to rangers, warlocks, clerics as well. All of these characters are very, very fearful of you. Bard plays like a slightly tankier Slayer fighter that has just less damage. So I do think it's very, very good, and I don't think, you know, playing Bard is perfectly fine right now once you get good gear. Like, if you play Bard and you get the gear you want, you will not feel bad. It will feel good. All right, moving on. Ranger, nothing really spectacular to say about Ranger. Ranger is just kind of good. They have good damage. It's a caster meta where a lot of the characters you want to kill are squishies. Fighters aren't super popular right now. Triple DPS comps or triple, like, you know, squishy, quote-unquote, comps are seemingly the meta. You don't really see many fighter ranger clerics. You don't really see many, like, you know, barb wizard bards, bard wizard clerics. You don't really see many of these traditional frontline support backline comps. A lot of the times you're seeing things like warlock, rogue, wizard, you know, warlock, rogues, these triple squishy comps that ranger just loves to be able to shoot at because you hit them very, very hard. And if you run, see, this is actually a thing I'm actually, because obviously I don't play Ranger, but I'm pretty sure it's better. If you run recurve bow with triple shot, you actually have very, very high kill potential on a thing like a Warlock because you just insta-kill them before they ever get a chance to heal or phantomize. Longbow doesn't have that same damage. Yes, you have a double shot, but I'm pretty sure double shot isn't going to kill, or they'll have long enough time to be able to phantomize in between. Maybe not, maybe I'm wrong. But other than that, Ranger's just very strong. They're still very good at holding positions, especially in the Ruins meta with a tower. You just go sit up top of tower. You can put traps on stairs. You just sit up there. You shoot at anyone that comes near. Do a ton of damage. Very, very strong class. Wizard. So Wizard has fallen a bit down. And there's a few reasons for that. One of the reasons being all the characters that Wizard isn't super good against are better, except for Barbarian. Like, Ranger deals with Wizard. Bard is pretty good at dealing with Wizard. Rogue obviously deals with Wizard. And Wizards are just... Right, it's kind of funny. Warlock has now taken the place of Wizard, where Warlock is just the better Wizard. I do a little bit less damage. Like, Warlock does a little bit less damage than Wizard. However, they are way harder to kill by a mile and a half, and they don't die to the same things. Like, a Warlock can deal with a Ranger and a Rogue, unless the Rogue is running Cutthroat, or if the Ranger one-shots them. But if they don't, the Warlock can just kite the Rogue, and Ranger would kill them forever. And just, like, they're just never going to die. Wizard, however, is like if a rogue gets on you, you're pretty much just dead unless you kill with magic missile, or if you get shot by a ranger, then you're out of the fight until either your cleric kills you if you have a cleric, or if you heal yourself, which takes a while because low interaction speed. But that being said, I mean, we also, like, buff ball isn't super meta right now. You don't really have that many haste invis going off anymore, which is good. I mean, you know, it's good. I mean, fuck buff ball meta, but you don't really have that many haste invis targets going into fights. Wizard isn't the best at holding an area. Like, Ruins for, like, tower meta for Ruins, Wizard isn't the best at holding up there. I mean, sure, once you push into them, they're not bad because they have, you know, spells that can throw inside corridors. However, you don't really want to waste your spells throwing at people below you the same way a Warlock can, like, you know, throw a Dark Bolt because they don't care about their spell usages, or a Ranger can shoot an arrow, or a Bard or Fighter could crossbow, or something like that. You have much more limited spell uses, and whenever you, like, each spell you toss out, that you're actively, like, helping the enemy unless you hit them, because then, you know, they can just, like, oh, all the fireballs down, we can push. All the Ice Bolt's down, Chain Lightning's down, Lightning Strike's down, they're useless. And that you just kind of have that. That's something you have to play around. Wizard is just generally a much slower character than all these other characters that have to play because they have to take time to get spell uses back. Sure, Cleric, like, you know, to an extent is the same way. However, Cleric has much more value in a fight because Cleric's mostly only going to using their spells in a fight. Or if you use your spells out of the fight, you know, you sit down, get a lesser heal back, doesn't take long. Wizard has to get all these damage spells back, takes forever. Their damage is still good, and if you can get a spot where you can still get their damage off, your damage is still incredibly high. However, just overall, not super valuable. I mean, Magic Missile still chunks, Fireball still chunk, Ice Bolt still, they still hit very hard. Slows are still good. You still have a Haste Invis, which isn't like, you're not buff balling on it, but Haste Invis are still useful spells. Like this, and Light Orb, you can still detect rogues. Like this class still has all the tools it needs. It's just the meta isn't necessarily right for this class. Just the way people are playing right now, the comps that are being played, Wizard doesn't love. Like Wizard does not love having to fight triple DPS characters because instead of there being like like a traditional let's say Fighter Ranger Cleric, right? That's a comp I always get back to. Fighter Ranger Cleric or Barb Cleric Wizard. These comps, there's usually only one target the Wizard has to worry about. Like Fighter Ranger Cleric, the Fighter and the Cleric aren't going to kill this Wizard. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the Ranger you have to worry about. However, if you're fighting like Warlock Ranger, Warlock Rogue, that is now 3 characters that this Wizard has to worry about and can kill, or can kill him. So you have way more to worry about. When people playing these triple DPS comps, Wizard just doesn't love it. I know how the meta's shaped up, but I don't think Wizard's bad by any means. That's why it's an A tier. That's why all these characters are an A tier. I think all of these characters, you can pretty much every single character in this game except for Barbarian, I think you could throw in pretty much any single comp, and if you're good, you will find success. That's just how it is. All right, now onto the odd child out, the ugly duckling, the Barbarian. Barbarian they don't have a spot right now. Barbarian is a character that has been carried for so long by classes buffing it up. Haste Invis, Accelerando, Allegro. All of these things that buffed Barb up and sent them in and allowed Barb to play the game just aren't really working for it right now. You don't get enough. Barb does not get enough stats. If you want a ton of tankiness, you don't have the movement speed. If you want the movement speed, you're not really tanky. And it's like, you don't have good one-handed weapon options. Your two-handed weapon options aren't the best. I mean, you have like Zweihander and Felling Axe. Maul's kind of fallen out of meta, which for good reason. It's not very strong anymore. But Felling Axe obviously has the super big weakness of really short range. And in a meta where every character is super, super fast, a weapon that has really bad range, and if you miss, you have a really long recovery time, just is not feasible. Because you're going to miss more often than not. You're going to have a long recovery. You're going to get kited. You're going to get killed by pretty much every character in this game. Zwei is fine. It's not fantastic. It is what it is. It gets the job done sometimes. You can't swing it in some areas, so, you're kind of forced to try to play in the open. However, even when you pull it out, you still become incredibly slow, even with, like, Rage Popped or Haste Invis or whatever you have, because it's still a very heavy weapon. So Barb just in a weird spot where they just can't really do what they want to. In solos, however, Barb is probably the best character in the game. Like, it's not even close. Barb in solos is OP, but this isn't about solos. This is about trios, or even duos. But in solos, Barb is super OP. However, in trios, Barb just doesn't do anything. The amount of times you even see a good geared Barbarian is so few. I haven't personally ran into a very geared Barbarian in a long time. A very, very long time. And on the off chance, if you do fight like another frontline team that's a fighter, the fighter's just going to lock you down and you're not going to do anything for the whole fight. You fight triple backline comps, they're just going to kite you and kill you. You're going to get slowed by ranger shots. You're going to get, Curse of Pain, Hydra. The Wizard's going to slow you. Rogues are going to stab your backline. Like, Barb is kind of just, like, in a weird spot where it wants a lot of stats, but even with all the stats in the meta, they can't get everything they want. And they have bad weapons. Because Barb has had bad weapon choices for a long time. Their one-handed weapons are pretty much just Viking Sword. And yeah, Viking Sword's okay, but it's not great. It's, like, decent, right? It's like, okay, like, if I have to use something and I have to use this, I won't complain the most, right? It's not great, but it could be worse. Horseman's Axe, the only time anyone uses Horseman's Axe is if they have famine. You don't use it otherwise. It is completely useless. You have to run, like, all these axe perks that aren't very good for it. Barb is in a weird spot. It's like you want to be a frontline, but Barb is in the spot that Fighter has been in the past, where it's all you are is a frontline. You are just a meat shield that doesn't really pose a threat to anyone, and that in the meta just is not very good. It's like people have played Barb and they have some success. However, Barb is just not doing what it wants to right now. It's not doing what the character should be doing. It's not really a backliner. You can't even get to anyone in the backline. It's the same as Fighter. It's where, you have to pop rage to get to the backline, and if you don't kill them before your rage is over and it ends, they're just gonna then kite you away, and you're chalked. It's fucked. But with that being said, that pretty much sums it up for the tier list for now. There is a patch tomorrow, so maybe, some things change. And if they do, like I said, I will make another tier list going over probably in like a week or so if there's pretty big changes. But if not, then this is pretty much, I think this is a pretty solid one. Like I said, there are some things that can move here. Like fighter, I think could go over like Slayer fighters all the way up here. Normal fighter, I'd put it down here. You have things like Bard, Ranger, Wizard fighter, like Plate fighter. I think all of these are pretty much interchangeable. I think these are all very, very strong. And I think they all have their strengths and weaknesses. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. And as always, if you have your own opinions on this, feel free to leave them down below. I always enjoy reading comments, especially if they're funny or if they're BMing me, because those are funny. I get to think that you guys are idiots. But surely I'd never do that. Alright, thank you guys for watching. And if you enjoyed, feel free to like and subscribe. With that being said, I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.